Well, it's another fantastic one, and that's classic. And today we have somebody that we've been trying to get together, which happens at times, but we were able to pull it all together, and I'm thrilled to have her on. To say that I've watched her a zillion times is an understatement on the Love Boat. She played Vicki Stubing, and she did a wonderful job. Jill Whelan. So, Jill, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Finally.
Well, anyway, yeah, right out of the gates, I was curious, how old were you when you started Love Boat? And do you remember, did you have an audition for it? I did a lot of research on you, but I wasn't quite sure if I caught that.
I was, I think, 10 or so when I first did it as a guest star. But no, I didn't audition. I was doing another show for Aaron Spelling at the time, another series called Friends, not the one that everybody's familiar
Yeah.
with. And the show didn't last past the first, I think, 8 episodes that we shot. But in the interim, I had guest starred on Love Boat, and Aaron Spelling wanted to sign me to a contract, kind of like they used to do in the old movie studio days. And we didn't choose to do that. And I think on Love Boat, Gavin MacLeod really wanted to sort of evolve his character as the captain to have a little bit more history, more depth to his character other than just being the captain. So they decided to bring my guest starring character as Vicky back as a series regular. So I didn't have to audition. I was super lucky.
Oh, wow. So did you not sign a long-term contract then, or
I didn't do the studio contract
I
that he
see.
wanted me to do, but I did sign a contract for the series. Because the problem was my lawyer at the time was afraid that if I signed a studio contract that I couldn't work for anybody else.
Mhm.
So they didn't want that to happen. So that was a good thing because then I wouldn't have been able to do the movie Airplane or some of the other things that I did.
Yeah, that worked out really well. Look, you brought up Gavin MacLeod, and I think that he's always I don't mean to say the elephant in the room. He's not by any means, but he's always there. Whenever as you well know, I talked with Fred, and I've also talked with Ted. And by the way, I have to say in both cases, I love these guys, and I've really had the
Same.
pleasure to get to know them. But one thing is though that Gavin was the as they said the patriarch of the show or whatever. What do you remember the first time that you met Gavin?
I do. And I was actually, as a kid, I wasn't really ever starstruck because as a kid, you don't understand the gravity of all of that and where it fits in pop culture and society. But I
Sure.
was starstruck by Gavin because
Before we go on with the interview, I just wanted to remind you to please subscribe to That's Classic if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when my next episode is being released. Okay, let's go on with the interview.
before I was on the series, uh, and obviously I watched it on TV, I saw him in the musical Annie Get Your Gun.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, I think he and Debbie Reynolds. And I was a big musical theater girl. That's how I started. And so I was starstruck because of that. And, from that moment on, he and I were thick as thieves and super close. He was like a real dad to me. We were very, very close. In fact, when he passed, I got the privilege of being able to eulogize him for the cast, representing our cast.
Oh my gosh, Jill, that had to be a pretty heavy moment for you.
Oh, it was. It took everything in me just to get through it.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Was the whole cast there, by the way?
They were. Everybody was there. Everybody was there. And Gavin loved Hawaiian shirts. So all the men and some of the women all wore Hawaiian shirts for him, which was wonderful.
My gosh, that's pretty darn special.
Yeah.
Jeez. Did
Yeah.
so what was your relationship like? I realize you said like a father, but like, offset, you're not, maybe you're not in a scene or you're not in school during that time, let's say. Did you guys have, would you talk together or was it like, kind of what is separate ways? What was your thing?
No, oh, sure, all the time. He would hang out in my dressing room with my mom and I, or I would be in his dressing room with he and his assistant, and either we were running lines or sneaking food that wasn't on our diets together, or or just hanging out. And he was just a really, really wonderful human being, and we had so much to talk about, and so many things that we shared a common love for. So we did hang out quite an awful lot.
Did you
Even
get a
off
chance?
the set, he would
And
come to our house for dinner, and we had him over for his birthday several times. So yeah, it was pretty special.
oh, that's pretty cool. Did you ever get the chance to actually tell him like what it meant for you because of Annie Get Your Gun, with Debbie
Oh my
Reynolds?
gosh, yes, yes. We were very clear in what we meant to each other, because he was very effusive in his feelings for everybody. That was Gavin. Gavin was, he just was such a bright light. He would, be having a hot dog and just say, "Isn't this the greatest hot dog in the world? Isn't she the greatest? Wasn't that the most fun?" That's just Gavin. That's how he was. So there was never a doubt on where you stood with him at any time. So,
Oh, is that cool? I love hearing that because I loved him too. I mean, I just loved watching him. He always made me feel good, always comfortable. Um,
yes.
what is that like? It's funny. It's talking to Fred, talking to Ted. I'm getting an adult perspective, and which is awesome. And we had some great stories. But you're coming in, you're 10, 11, and you're on this basically a show that's a hit already. And and it's all adults, pretty much. What was that like for you? And not only that, let's just throw in a cruise ship as well. What was that like for you as, an 11-year-old to suddenly be part of this and also be on a boat? What was going through your head?
Well, it's people ask me that all the time, and the disappointing but simple answer is that it was normal for me, because it's the first time I was 11. So it was the first time that I had those experiences, and I didn't have any other experience. So for me, it felt pretty normal.
Yeah, yeah. When you were on this ship, by the way, and traveling to these like, exotic locations, I mean, to say the least, how was that? Because once again, you're a child and you're actually getting to see, let's say the Great Wall of China or, the pyramids. What was that
Well,
like?
it's funny when you mention the Great Wall of China. Um, I was very lucky that the school that I went to in Los Angeles was able to sometimes cater my education, my lessons towards where we were in the
Oh,
world. And so I was taking an Eastern civilization class at the time that we were in China. So as I was reading about the Great Wall of China, I was actually sitting on it. So
okay.
yeah,
Come
pretty incredible.
on.
And the same can be said for the pyramids. It was a phenomenal uh, education and a phenomenal experience.
What are some of your favorite stories or moments? And I'm sure you've been asked that a million times too, but especially when you were traveling to these locations, what were some of your favorites or not so favorite, for that matter?
I will say, just having said something about Egypt, because I have favorite experiences, everywhere, but
Yeah.
um, I think this was a pretty cool bucket list. We were in Egypt. I was older at this point. I was probably about, I don't know, 16, something like
Yeah.
that. And we were in Egypt. It's when Ted McGinley, who played Ace the photographer, was on the show. We're sitting in the lobby of our hotel near the pyramids in Giza. And these guys in uniform came over to us as we're sitting in the lobby. And it was Ted Lange, myself, Ted McGinley, I think Catherine Oxenberg, who was on Dynasty.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to think who else might have been there. I'm not sure, but those are the ones I can remember offhand. And these service gentlemen came up and said, "Hi, we are on an American Army base, and it's not far from here. We were interested in knowing if you guys ride horses." And we all said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, we've got some beautiful Arabian horses, and if you're interested, we'd love you to go on a sunset ride at the pyramids and the Sphinx right now if you don't have anything planned. And we're like, yep, we're in. And we did. We rode on these
Wow.
gorgeous Arabian horses provided by U.S. military at sunset between the pyramids and the Sphinx. And it was, I mean,
Oh,
unbelievable.
I mean, seriously, what a
Yeah.
time to have experienced that. Jeez.
Yes. And then I
Wow.
had a different experience at the very same location on a different trip that we took, where it was our day off and we took one of the tour buses into the pyramids again. And I was with my mom. I was younger at this point, I think. And Debbie Allen was one of the guest stars. We were exploring, and at that point, they started having some cyclone fencing around the Sphinx.
Hmm.
And there was an opening. So Debbie and I went in. And as we went in to look at the Sphinx and touch the Sphinx, we felt a presence and we turned around, and there was an Egyptian guard who had his rifle trained on us.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And my mom was already back in the tour bus. Everybody had already gone back or was starting to go back. Nobody saw this happening but Debbie and I. And Debbie, all of a sudden, the hair on the back of her neck went up and she turned into mom mode and she looked at the guy. What he wanted was money.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. And but he didn't speak English and we didn't speak Egyptian or the languages that he spoke. I don't know if it was Farsi or whatever it was that he spoke, but whatever it was, we did not speak it.
Yeah.
And she just looked at him and with her hand was talking to him like this, had me behind her and backing up and finger waving at him and got out of there. And my mom, I could see her, I don't know, half a mile away saying, Jill, Jill.
Oh,
She
geez.
could not see what was happening. But she was, my mother going, get on the bus, you're holding it up. And I'm like, speaking of holding it up, Mom. And we got out of there. But yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Oh, that's insane. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. What about, by the way, we mentioned the Great Wall in China. What was, China, obviously, especially when you were there, I'm not saying that it wasn't open, but it wasn't quite,
It
as
wasn't.
open as it would have been. Yeah.
We were the first American film company,
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
television film company allowed in. So it was pretty incredible. We shopped at the People's Store when we wanted to get souvenirs. And I think everybody got a Mao jacket, things like that. We would walk down the street and the population was not used to seeing blonde, fair-eyed people. So they would literally come up to us and pull on our hair and try to just to see what it was. And so it was really interesting. It was a fascinating place to be, a beautiful country, and just such rich history. We were so fortunate to be there when it was still, very, very unspoiled.
And they didn't really, I would guess then that they hadn't seen you because they wouldn't have had access. So they didn't really, did they even, I
No,
don't
they
know,
had no idea. It was
comprehend
just
that.
these people that were not like them.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. What look, when I, once again, Ted on and Ted and Fred talked about the great old stars that were on the show, and they had their lunch club, that they called it or whatever, and they would take them out to lunch and just, hear stories. And
Yes.
so for you, and by the way, I was always fascinated by that. That was incredible. But for you, were you able to take in some of that who these people were? Because once again, you're younger and they were, whatever, 1940s stars, let's say,
I was
50s.
very, very fortunate that I had a huge appreciation for black and white movies and MGM musicals.
Hmm.
So I knew exactly who they were. And I was always excited to meet them. I used to have paper doll sets of, Lana Turner and Vivian Leigh and Lucille Ball and all of them,
Oh my
just
gosh.
goes on and Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart and all of those kind of people. So for me, this was a wonderful, wonderful experience because I knew who they were and I appreciated their work and I loved their work.
Oh wow. So who are a couple that pop into your head that for you it was just like, oh come on, I can't believe I'm meeting this person.
I think Ginger Rogers was one. I got to tap dance with her.
I remember that with Gavin MacLeod, right?
Gavin, we did a little soft shoe. I think the musicals probably were my favorites. So with Van Johnson and Cab Calloway and Della Reese and Carol Channing and Ethel Merman and Ann Miller, um, those were some of my most favorites. But then we also had some icons like Olivia de Havilland.
Oh, come on.
One of my favorite movies at the time was Gone with the Wind. So to have her there was incredible. Jane
Okay,
Withers.
wait. Did you talk to Olivia de Havilland about Gone with the Wind?
Oh my God, of course she signed 2 Gone with the Wind books for me. We totally did. And then Ted and Fred and we have a podcast that we are doing called The Real Love Boat. And we talked to Juliette Mills, who the guys didn't know this, but I had found out that Juliette Mills, who worked on Love Boat as well, was Vivian Leigh's goddaughter.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. I've had Juliet on. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yes. So, it's all
Wow.
interconnected and it's amazing. But yeah, and she couldn't have been more lovely. I did not ask her about her relationship with her sister Joan Fontaine because I don't know if you know, but they did not get along.
No. That was always a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was
Well,
we were
what did you ask her? What do you remember
I
hearing
wish I
about
could
Gone with the
remember,
Wind?
but I'm sure I asked her questions about Clark Gable, and I think she did tell me a story. Now I do remember this. Now it's all coming back to me. We were talking about Clark Gable, and she told me that he had a wonderful uh, sense of humor, and that it was, he had a devilish sense of humor, but she had one as well. So she won that famous scene where she's sick upstairs after just having given birth and very,
Mhm.
very weak, and they've got to leave Atlanta. She is picked up by him and he carries her down the stairs, like the
Oh
swashbuckling
yeah.
macho man that he is or was. And she took a bunch of sandbags and tied them around her waist so that when he went to lift her, he was not expecting what was going to happen. And so she did tell me that story.
Okay, that's pretty darn funny, actually,
Yeah.
especially from her because she has that, yeah, on screen, she always has that very proper, kind
Very
of thing
regal
going.
sort of
Right.
countenance to her. Yes.
Oh, is that funny? So, what about when you did do the tap dance scene with Ginger Rogers and Gavin? Did Ginger actually kind of help you guys, to do it, or was it just like
Oh, I
choreography?
mean, it was a very rudimentary, simple, soft shoe. So it was just a little shuffle. And Gavin is a musical theater guy.
Yeah.
I was a musical theater girl. So we had a choreographer who just sort of gave us, she was much older at that point.
Yeah.
So it
Sure.
was a very simple little routine and pretty easy for us to do. But boy, was it an honor.
Wow. Did you mention Jane Withers, by the way, as well? And Jane Withers obviously was a big child star. Um,
Yes.
did you get a chance to talk to her at all?
Janie and I were very close. I just adored her. She would often be in my dressing room when she guested on our show with my mom and I. And she was just the most lovely, sweet, youthful soul. And she just had this giggle that was so infectious and just very generous with her time. Just a really wonderful person.
Did she I don't know, give you any, commentary as far as being a child star herself and, where you're at or anything like that?
We talked about what it was like to be children in an adult business,
Hmm.
and kind of what that means, and what our responsibilities were at the time, and how that played out, and how it was a little different then with the studio system than it was in my day. Um, that, back when she was a child star, they didn't have what's called the Jackie Coogan law,
Hmm.
which is where the government makes sure that the parents of whoever the child actor is, that the parents can't take all their money, because that's what happened with Jackie Coogan. So
Right.
we talked about things like that, sort of technical things in our industry and how they changed and evolved and stuff like that.
God, how cool. I mean, seriously, I can't even tell you how envious I am of you of those moments. I'm a huge fan of that time. Yeah, as far as like Van Johnson, he's kind of one of those people that I mean, look, I've always loved his films and I think he's great. I just never got any sense of him, like as what type of person he was. What was he like?
Lovely, sweet, really nice man, just very down to earth. His trademark, I don't know if everybody knows this or whether I just noticed it. I mean, it's his trademark, so I'm sure everybody knew it. He always had red socks, no
Hmm.
matter what outfit he was wearing. He always had his red socks on.
Wow.
And he was just a good guy, very approachable, lovely, another icon, worked with everybody.
Hmm.
Um, Super sweet. And when I think about it now, about what it must have been like for all of them to work with a kid,
Hmm.
they were so generous with their time and with their energy and with their professionalism. So I was super lucky.
You were, because there are some actors, I mean, we go all the way back to W.C. Fields that
The line.
really
Yeah.
detested working with kids or
Yeah.
animals for that matter, because they take the scene. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was very lucky with my castmates because they already had a good thing going.
Hmm.
So here comes this kid, and how's that going to change the dynamic? And how is that going to upset the apple cart? And I could not have been more lucky to have them. And, as you know, we are all extremely close.
Hmm.
We love each other. We're going to New York to do a play in September together that Ted wrote, and Fred and I will be in. And we did a play, Ted, Fred, and I, in Dexter, Michigan last year. Um, and we are all extremely close. Lauren Tewes comes to my house for weekend visits, and we cook together. So, and Bernie's wife actually is going to be our stage manager for this play.
Oh, come on. Are you
Yeah.
serious? Oh,
Yes. So,
wow.
so we're a very close knit group this many years later. And no, who would have thought it?
I mean, that's not just, believe me, I've talked to a lot of people and they are some of them are close with the cast. It's still
Yeah.
but this is beyond this is beyond. I mean, I read that either read or heard you in an interview that the play in Dexter, the three of you lived together for a
Yes,
month.
we
I
did.
mean, there's a big difference there.
We did, and we plan to do the same in New York. So I cook for the guys. I walked in and I said, listen, guys, I don't like bad food. I don't know how either one of you cook, but I cook. I'm cooking. And so I cooked for them every night. And it was great fun. We had a blast together.
Wow, I love hearing that. That's really cool. By the way, isn't Ted directing that one in New York
Yes,
too?
he is. He wrote
Yeah.
it and he's directing.
Right, right. Major talent on his end too. Man has
Yes.
written so much and blown away. So what was your relationship like then with Lauren Tewes? Because I do think of it's funny as I say that my brain goes to Ted saying Tweez. I don't know
It is,
why,
please.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's always in my head. But the what was your relationship like with her? Because a lot of the show it was always kind of like, oh, it's Julie and Vicky. You know what I mean? Like it was always that kind of thing. What
We
was
were
that
the
like?
only two girls, so we had to have each other's backs, and we certainly did, and she certainly did. And it was just it is and was a wonderfully sweet relationship. She was always supportive, always concerned about my welfare and my well-being and how I was treated, and making sure that I had the respect and commanded the respect from the cast and the crew and the guest stars. She was a wonderful advocate and friend, and still is.
Like offset, she would
Oh,
actually
yeah,
advocate for you?
absolutely. Absolutely. There was one time when I was 13 years old and I was going through the change at
Sure.
13, and I did not know that's what was happening, but that's what was happening. And I was on set with Lonnie Anderson, and I had a reputation. They would call me one take Whelan because I was a kid. So
Wow.
memorizing was easy.
Yeah.
For most kids, it is easy because you have to do it every day in school. So that muscle is, well
True.
oiled.
Every day you're doing it. Yeah.
So I couldn't remember my line. I couldn't get it out, and I started to cry. And the crew was getting antsy because it was the last shot of the day before we had a vacation.
Oh boy.
And I just started to cry. And the director got very short with me, and Lauren got very short with him and said, "Don't you dare." She pulled me aside off of the set, gave me a hug, and we started talking about hormones, and that's what was going on, and not to worry. And she's, basically, I got you. And she went back out there and she said, "I don't want to ever hear you speak with her like that ever again.
Oh
Now
man.
let's do the scene." And in the scene, if you ever see that episode, it's Lonnie Anderson, and the line was something about, "You won the Sour Apple Award," for something that the character that Lonnie Anderson was playing did. And if you ever see it, they never got a take with me where I wasn't doing that huffing that you do when you've been crying hard. So it's like, "She won the Sour Apple Award." That's the best they could get, because my diaphragm was still so tight from all of the crying. But yeah, Cindy, her real name is Cindy. Lauren Tewes is her stage name.
Okay.
So if we refer to her as Cindy now, you'll know what I mean. But Cindy was right there through the whole thing, and was through the entire run of the show.
Oh, that's a really heavy moment. That's so cool that she stepped in like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I will find that episode, by the way, because I got to see that. But
Okay. Yeah, she was a mama bear.
yeah, yeah, no kidding. I got to tell you something, and I'll be really honest with you. I honestly felt a bit choked up in doing some research on you when it came to Douglas Kramer. I literally was. I don't know. That hurt, to be honest. I thought it came up a couple of times in some interview or articles, and I was like, it's just I don't know. Do you mind addressing some of that, because that was just really shocking to me.
Well, that's an experience that both Lauren Tewes and I shared together. Um, she is not as open about it as I am, and that's her prerogative to be that
Sure.
way. But for me, I never said anything about it until after he passed. But he doesn't have any children that are alive,
Mm.
so I felt very comfortable, being that he was the
Yeah.
last of his generation, to be able to say that not going to hurt anybody who loves him or doesn't love him, or whatever the case may be. But he was really hard, and really difficult. He didn't, although he had a daughter, he didn't understand the pressures of telling somebody to lose weight and what that meant, and reducing somebody to what, and in fairness, that was our industry at the time.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, true, very true.
I was at 16 years old wearing the same size pants as Cheryl Ladd was on Charlie's Angels. And I know that because I used to go into the wardrobe department, because we shared one, and for fun, try on her clothes.
Oh,
And,
wow.
it was a daunting thing to be going through puberty and having people say, "You need to lose weight, you need to do this." And
And
my
you're
mom would
16
progress to
or
say,
15?
yeah. And my mom would say, "I'm not putting," at the time, I think, I don't know if I was 13, "I'm not putting a 13-year-old on a diet. It's just not happening." And she's fine.
Wow.
But then, of course, my mother would feel the pressure. So then she'd come home and she'd say, "Why are you eating that? You need to have a
Oh
salad," or whatever.
no, no.
So, but she was trying to help me have what I wanted. It wasn't like she was being judgmental. She was just trying to manage me, and as a mom. But that's the industry. But he was, vindictive in a lot of ways. At one point, I went to a doctor who put me on a 400 calorie a day diet. And
400? That's
yeah, and I
nothing.
went to a fat farm at the same time, came back, lost all this weight, was on the cover of the National Enquirer. And they did this scene where I come through the purser's lobby elevator doors, and I'm wearing a white silk sweetheart neckline dress. And I looked very thin, and they were doing what's called dailies, which is where they shoot the day's work. Then the next day, once the editor has everything in a file, they'll go to a theater and they'll watch it on a big screen to say, we like this take, we like this one, we don't like this, redo this. Oh, the sound is wrong there. You got to go in and loop that sound, or whatever technically has to happen to make it work. And I remember, because my best friend at the time was Doug Kramer's personal assistant. She was sitting next to him, and the elevator's open. She said, I've never seen you look more beautiful. The dress was gorgeous. And it was a full body shot of you coming out of that elevator. And he said, no, I don't like it. I'm still mad at her for being fat in the first place. Cut it up to her neck. I don't want to see her figure.
Oh, come on.
So I never knew that until, I don't know, like 3 years ago, when my friend and I were sitting down having lunch or something. But yeah, I mean, so there were things like that, and things that he would do to Lauren Tewes that were very misogynistic and would not fly at all today with the Me Too movement and things like that. But, you know, we all agree to do this industry, and the rules are what they are. And until you figure out what the rules are and what your sense of self is, it is what it is. I've had enough therapy and normal life since then that I just look at it and I'm like, well, that was what that was. But you can't hold on to that stuff. You got to move forward, because otherwise all you are is your past experiences and not what's up ahead of you. So
No, I hear you. And I mean, just talking with you, I mean, you are a very strong woman. There's no doubt about that. And that's awesome. But I yeah, I just, I mean, look, I have an acting background too, so I was kind of around during that time. Very, yeah, never had the success, that you did, but I was around the industry, and I can totally believe that that was happening. But what really makes me ill, and not taking anything away from Lauren, but it makes me ill that they would subject a 13-year-old to that. And then you're telling me a fat farm. I mean, come on. That's just terrible, you know?
well, and, and not all producers. I mean, Michael Landon was a wonderful
Yeah.
executive producer. This just happens to be this particular individual,
Yeah.
and we were a commodity. We weren't
Right.
anything more.
Mm. What,
So
what what about Aaron Spelling then?
Aaron
Was he
Spelling was fabulous, and
yeah.
I loved him. And he was nothing but wonderful to me, and tender and sweet all the years that I knew him. And I had a completely different experience with Aaron, but Aaron was um, not as hands-on as Doug was. In
Mm.
terms of, Doug was, the everyday there. Aaron had a plethora of shows.
I was going to say he had like every show on television at that
Yeah,
time. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he was the Shonda Rhimes of the time.
Yeah, he was. He was. No.
So it was a different experience with Aaron, and I adored him.
Yeah, I got you. What, by the way, why did you become an actor? That was the other thing I was curious about. I looked and it's like, oh, look, she's from Oakland and she's done commercials. But I was like, what was the impetus? What said, hey, I want to do this?
Um, I loved doing make believe. I loved music. I loved to do choreography. I loved being on stage. I loved make believe, and that's I mean, I never thought of doing anything else. When I was a little tiny kid, I was holding hairbrushes in the mirror doing commercials at like 5 years old, 6 years old. So
Yeah,
when I realized that was actually an industry, that was it for me.
I got you. Yeah, because one thing I gotta say, and you've mentioned your mother a couple of times, and so I think I kind of get the answer there. But yes, you went through these moments, but you've still remained very grounded, very for lack of a better term, have a normal vibe. And as we both know, a lot of child actors, there's some that are great, and believe me, I've talked like Glenn Scarpelli, who's a mutual friend of ours, by the way. There's somebody that also very grounded, very, has been successful, but obviously a lot of child actors, unfortunately, during that time too, are either not with us anymore or are, have gone in a bad direction, let's say. What do you think it was then for you that really held you on the right course?
My mom. It was my mother. My mom never confused what I did for a living and her role in helping me achieve that with her goals and her participation in that industry. It was not about her, it was about protecting her kid. And she did that from day one. When I went on my first series, and one of the producers came up and said, Jill, if there's anybody on this set that you don't like, you just let us know and we'll have them fired. And my mother stepped in and said, laughed at them and said, if you ever give my daughter that kind of power again, we will be out of here before the ink on the contract is dry.
Oh, what a weird comment. Yeah, okay.
But that's how that, but I mean, if you look at all the kids who have had those problems,
Mm-hmm.
Danny Bonaducci says a story, and it says everything. He supported his family with
Yeah.
the Partridge, and he had a house where they all lived. And his mother was trying to discipline him one day. She said, "You go to your room." And he looked at her and he said, "Which one? I own all of them."
Oh my gosh.
Which,
Who
okay,
says that?
you
Yeah.
could probably
Oh,
say, but the parent has to then come in, and I can tell you, I wouldn't have gotten through the sentence without a sharp paddle on my butt.
right, right.
Mother.
Yeah, yeah. She's
Um,
your mom.
and
Yeah,
I'm still afraid of her.
right.
But
That's
I think, you know, my mom, to her credit, having no idea what the industry was about, knowing absolutely nothing about it, was not afraid to risk it all and say, forget it, we're going home.
yeah,
And I think that's the secret ingredient, because kids on sets back then, I mean, they were given anything they wanted. And so then the series ends, and all of that superpower, I can have anything world that they went was completely gone.
yeah. We don't know
And
you.
where's their identity then if it's always wrapped up in I have the say, I have, it's like Willy Wonka, and you look at Veruca Salt.
Right,
I want it now. And all of a
right.
sudden you can't have it now. And how do they deal with that? A lot of them unfortunately turned to drugs
Yep.
because they wanted it to self-soothe and self-medicate and escape, because their life was no longer the same and they didn't have the tools to deal
Yeah,
with it as a normal person. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they played for keeps with the
yeah,
drugs. And I truly believe it's having a guardian or a parent who is willing to lose it all.
yep.
And as long as they realize what is important, and the importance is the healthy rearing and value system that you instill in that kid. They're still a kid,
That's
to some
right.
people, they're a commodity,
Yep.
but you got to be there to protect them. You can't hire somebody to protect your kid on a set. You have to be there. And
Yeah.
my mother always was. And, to this day, that's why I took a break from the industry when I had kids, because I didn't bargain on going on tour and leaving my kids to fend for themselves with the spouse or
Hmm.
a nanny or an au pair. It was my job. I chose to have them. I chose to raise them, and I was damn well going to do it.
I love it. I love it. Talk about the payoff. That's the payoff right there, is that it transferred into you and your life. I love that.
Well, I
Um,
haven't been arrested yet.
Hey, we'll give it time. We have time. We have time. So, talking about that, and this has come up many times with people that I've interviewed, and it's your age, but also even people that are older, it still happens. You're on this major hit show, and people think, my gosh, when that thing ends, they're going to put you in that next series, and man, they can't wait for whatever, and your career's going to go, and three-movie deal, whatever. But reality, the majority of people I talk to, it's extremely difficult to get hired after the series ends. What did were you like when the series ended? Did you feel any kind of sense of like, a bit lost or difficulty? Did you go through any of that or
Well,
not?
sure. I can look at it now in retrospect and tell you exactly what my thoughts were. There's no playbook for this. It's not like
Yeah.
everybody else who finishes high school, then they go to college, they pick a career, then they go from that. Back then there were three networks. It wasn't like it is today where it's kind of a machine. You would have that series, but then you have your team who's working on your licensing, who's working on your
Right.
marketing and your next project and branching you out into other things. We didn't really
No.
so much then. So when I finished Love Boat, I had been working steadily since I was 7 years old. I wanted to go to school. So I went to college and then came back to LA and said, no, I'm still not ready to be here because everybody's wondering what I'm going to do next. And so I moved to New York, and I had a really good friend who said, I was doing theater in New York, just having fun.
Mhm.
And she said, if you really want to empower yourself in our industry, you got to learn the other side of it. You got to learn about producing. And so I did. I started at Madison Square Garden as a runner.
Wow.
And I remember one of the performers was Stephanie Mills, and she had been a guest star on my TV show,
Oh
Love Boat.
my gosh.
And now I am going to the pharmacy to pick up things to put in her dressing room, which was fine. I didn't care because it wasn't like I was doing it out of desperation. I just wanted to learn something new. So it's totally fine with me. And I ended up creating a little niche for myself at the garden with these producers that I was working for, where I became their liaison between television when they started producing the ESPY Awards and the Essence Awards and MTV's celebration of Bob Dylan at MSG and all of those kind of things. Our guys knew stage rules for stagehands and all of the different unions, but they didn't know the television union rules. And I knew them because I grew up with them. So I kind of created that and learned about that.
That's pretty
It was
amazing, actually.
wonderful. It
Yeah.
was awesome. And I had a great time in New York. And then I met my future ex-husband, got married, had my son, and then I took a break until I raised both of my boys. And then got back into it when they got a little bit older.
That's pretty cool, Jill. Did you by the way, were you I'm just picturing you at Madison Square Garden like the first time you're the runner or whatever. Yeah, I appreciate that Stephanie Mills would know you, especially from working with you. But were people at times like, "Oh, hey, thanks," and then like, you know, aren't you from the Love Boat?" Was that
Yes.
happening to you?
Yeah, it did happen, and that was fine. I remember working with the Winans. The Winans, sorry. They are these incredible gospel singers, and I was huge fans of theirs. And I remember they came down to our office because while they were in rehearsal, there was a Knicks game happening in the big
Yeah.
arena because they were down at the Paramount Theater. And above us was the arena, and the Knicks were playing. And they asked, is there any way we could get up there and see some of the game? So I went up with them and sat with them for a little bit while they watched the game. And then they came back to our office, and then we all sang Amazing Grace
Oh, come
in
on.
our office, which was so much fun. And our stagehands and IATSE guys, they all knew who I was, and they would give me guff about it all the time. But it was a good time.
That's pretty cool. Do you still deal with that? I mean, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but do people still come up to you and say, "Hey, are you Joe Whelan from the
They
Love
do.
Boat?"
They do. Or if I'm on a phone call, with, a phone provider or, whatever it is, and I know that name. That's the same name as that actress. Like, it is. Well, your
That's
voice sounds familiar. Are you that actress? Yes, I am.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So look, I'm originally from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee or Madison is where the Zucker brothers started.
Oh,
And so I've always been a huge fan, and actually have been fortunate enough to meet them. And Airplane is always going to be a classic for me. And then here you are, you're playing Lisa Davis, the heart transplant woman. A kid. What was the set like? What is it like to be, granted you were young, but what was that set like when, it's just because it's like a joke a second, I mean, what was it like working on the set?
Well, as you say, I was a kid. So for the most part, if I wasn't on the set, I was in school.
Yeah.
I was only there for 2 weeks of the shoot, but it was when I was on the set, it was pretty loose and jovial and fun and a very family set in that the Zucker brothers' mom was there. She
Oh,
also had a little cameo in the film. But yeah, so it was a very a fun experience. I had a blast while I was there.
did you audition for the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams, or what was
I
the?
auditioned for Howard Koch.
Oh, Howard Koch. Okay.
Yes, who was the executive producer. And I just remember going into his office, and the thing I remember more than anything is he had these, I feel like they were 10-foot golden doors, two of them, two golden doors. And you walk into the door, and I sat on his couch, and he said, "Okay, kid, make a funny face." And so I did the fish lips, and he goes, "You're hired." That was it.
Wow.
Yep, that was it.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
I
Did
wish I wish auditions were that easy these days.
no kidding. Not only that, I mean, that's kind of one of those iconic moments. I mean, if you love Airplane, you're seen. Like you're right. It's like you've got that look like, you're going away or something. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Were there very many takes for that one, by the way?
Gosh, I'm gonna disappoint you. I can't remember, but I'm sure there were a few. I mean, I'm sure there was at least 3 or 4 because you got, coverage shots
Oh,
and all
I'm
the rest.
sure.
But I remember it, everybody laughing, and that was great. That's as an actor, if
Yeah.
people are laughing when you want them to, it's
Oh, yeah.
great.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, we talked earlier, and I want to make sure that we give it its due, that you're doing this podcast with Ted Lange and Fred Grandy. And I believe, well, at least talking to Fred, I know that the idea is possibly to have Princess Cruises behind it or whatever. But what can you tell us about it? What so far? What's the exact title and all of that?
Well, at the moment, it's the official Love Boat podcast.
Okay.
And at the moment, that's our title. And it's just there's so many people who are trying to relive those moments of our show. And we just thought, and we do these reunion cruises. And I actually work for Princess Cruises. I'm their celebrations ambassador. So it's an
Oh, what
amazing.
a gig. What a gig.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. But so we do these reunion cruises once a year, and they're always sold out. And we do a big talk in the big theater, and people line up. I mean, it's so funny. People are lining up the night before and sleeping
Oh,
outside.
come on. Come on.
I know it's insane to me to think about that. But they did, and they do. And we thought, well, gosh, if they're lining up because they want to see our stories, we might as well do a podcast and talk about the old episodes and
Mhm.
get as many guests as we can on to talk about what went on behind the scenes, because it really was magical. And those are some incredibly iconic people. I mean, my gosh, Andy Warhol, for God's sakes. Who
Oh,
would
come on.
have, or Halston? I mean, we know about Ginger Rogers, and we know about Cary Grant. Was it Cary Grant? It was Cary Grant, wasn't it? Or was it? Hold
What
on.
with wait, you're talking about with that was on?
Yeah, was it? No, it wasn't Cary Grant. Was it Cary Grant?
Gene
Okay,
Kelly?
Gene Kelly. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
They're both
Yeah.
gorgeous men, and I get them confused.
No, I get it. I knew where you were going. Yeah.
But thank you. Thank God you know my shorthand. And my shortcomings. We know about them, but to think about some of the people that we had on, Gloria Vanderbilt, Halston, Andy Warhol, these people that are not actors, but these iconic
I agree.
people. We just thought this is really, I mean, there's really a lot to talk about and
Mhm.
hear their stories and what they thought about it. We just had, as I told you, we had Juliette Mills on, and gosh, that was just a wonderful, wonderful interview, talking about everybody from Vivian Leigh, and we asked her about that. And she said one of her best moments was they were doing an anniversary of Gone with the Wind, and Vivian in New York, and Vivian Leigh asked Juliette to go to the screening.
Oh, wow.
And so she sat, and Vivian had not seen it since it came
Oh, oh, wow.
in Atlanta. So she went with her to the screening. And I said, well, did she say anything? What did she think? She said she was really impressed with her work. So, we have all these wonderful little nuggets from people that we worked with who are tangentially, related to very closely icons.
Mhm.
And it's just been so much fun to go back talking to Jimmy Walker and all the comedians that he knew and hung out with, Richard Pryor, and I won't spoil it, but there's lots of them that he talks about having worked with and the stories behind it and how he got started. It's an amazing story how he got started. So these are the stories that we're trying to bring out to people that are so fascinating and fun.
Well, I will tell you, like I said, having interviewed all three of you and just knowing the show and everything, I think it's a terrific idea. I think you guys would be great. I haven't even had a chance to listen to any of it yet because obviously it's not out, but I'm telling my audience right now that when that comes out, they should check it out because I think you'd be terrific at it. I think it'll be really good. So
Thank you. We are having fun recording them, so it should be fun.
oh, heck yeah, without a doubt. Hey, on a whole nother level, you were on game shows, and one of them that stood out for me was The Weakest Link because you actually won. And but what
I
a
beat rerun.
yeah, it was such a weird coming together, by the way. It was like Mackenzie Phillips, Eric Estrada, Joan Van Ark. Yeah, I looked at it, I was like, wow, what an interesting group to put together, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
What was that experience like doing that? That was interesting.
Oh, it was so much fun. And Nell Carter was also there.
Ah, that's it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I remember that because Nell says to me as we're walking off set one day, she goes, "So what are you doing now?" And at the time I had my son who was little. He was, I don't know, I think 4 at the time.
Yeah.
I said, well, now I'm raising my kid and I'm working at a newsroom because I was an assignment editor for a while. I wanted to have a regular salary to take care of my kids. And she goes, "Your money's in your voice," because I'm a singer. She goes, "You need to be doing that."
Wow.
And which was really sweet of her, and I loved her for it. But what I couldn't explain to her was, yeah, but that requires a lot of travel. And
Hmm.
I won't do that with my kids. I need to be
Right.
there for them. But the experience of Weakest Link was hilarious because my little one that I just mentioned, who's now 30, thank you very much.
I know. I know. Woo! There's
I
the
know
Yep.
he loved the host, Anne. And so I asked her because, she on camera is this very sort of um, abrasive, short person, but that's her shtick.
Yeah.
Off camera, she could not have been more lovely.
Yeah.
But she didn't show you that until you were off of the soundstage because there was something in keeping people on their toes
Right.
and
Right. That gets you. Yeah.
being a little bit afraid. Um, so I asked her one day, I said, "Would you be all right if I brought my son in to get a picture with you?" And she said, "Of course, absolutely." So we exchanged numbers, made a plan. We went back to, I think it was Burbank Studios or CBS in the Valley. And I took a picture of her with my son in his Christmas Grinch sweater. And
Oh.
that was her Christmas card. And it said, "Have a Merry Christmas, or you are the weakest link."
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, because I know you're gonna have to go.
Yeah. I got to jump.
You got to meet. My very last question to you is what the one actor that I meant to mention was Mickey Rooney because I've had different stories about him. Very interesting guy. What is your recollection of when he was on?
We actually sat together in director's chairs on the set one day, and he went off about how awful the business was for kids back in his day. And it was really, really interesting. And it was a friend of mine is Liza Minnelli, and I told her that story. Obviously, her mom was Judy Garland.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
who I
They
never
were
got to
close.
meet, but yeah, and we talked about that, and I shared it with Liza. She said, "Yeah, it was a tough time for kids back then," and we talked about it, and he really felt strongly about how difficult it was at the time for him
But
growing up. So
was he
that's the
bitter?
recollection I have about Mickey Rooney.
Was he, bitter about it?
He was he was bitter about it,
Yeah.
pretty bitter. So, but he was lovely to me. But
Oh, no, no, I know. Yeah, sure.
in recalling it, he was very bitter about it.
Wow.
So,
Wow. All
yeah,
right. Well, listen, Jill, you've been terrific. I mean, to be honest with you, there's so much I would love to talk to you about still. But maybe at some point you can come back. That'd be a lot of fun.
absolutely.
Yeah, without a
Absolutely.
doubt. But listen, I'm wishing you and Fred and Ted just tons of success with the podcast. I'll be watching for it.
Oh, thank you so much. And tons of success to you. And thank you so much.
You got it. My pleasure. Thanks
All
again.
right. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Hope you enjoyed the interview. Please don't forget to hit the subscription button and also hit the notification bell right after that so that you get notified whenever I have a new episode. And be sure to check out some of my other interviews. Henry Winkler, Jerry Mathers, Angela Cartwright, Shelley Fabre. It goes on and on. They're so great. Enjoy.